Hello and welcome back to our Zombie War series. This time we are going to implement enemies with pathfinding and also take a peek into the families and how they work. Let's get going. Again, we are going to start our episode in Piskel as we are going to draw our enemy so that we can start to create some logic for them and make them move. So I will draw quickly a zombie that we will use as our enemy, and I'll see you again once it's done. Okay, here we have our zombie, and now we can export it to the construct. Put it just there and rename it as SPR underscore zombie. And next, before we do anything in the construct, I want to make another enemy that basically has just another colored shirt. I think that's fine. Like that. So that way we can see better what kind of possibilities there are with families. Yeah, now we have the other zombie, and we can export this one also. And let's call this as SPR underscore strong zombie. Okay, now that we have two zombies here, we can create a new family by right clicking here on the families folder and adding family. And then we can just double click both of the zombies right here to be a part of this family and press OK. And then we want to rename it as enemies. So what are the families exactly? And well, I'd say that they are basically a container for similar objects where we can add like behaviors, instance variables, and logics, so that we don't have to make the same events for all of the enemies or like similar objects separately. And I think they can be quite difficult to understand like this, so I think they will become more clearer as we start to use them, which is actually right away. So in our game we want to make so that we have different kind of zombies. Let's say this blue one is like normal zombie and the red one is the strong zombie, so that they have different amount of health. And we can do that by going here to the enemies family, right clicking it, and here we can add family instance variable. We click there and add new variable. Let's call this as a HP. Let's keep it as a number and let's give it initial value of 3. And now if we check two different kind of zombies, you can see that they now have the instance variable called HP that is inherited from enemy's family. And here we can define separately how many health points will different kind of zombies have. So I will put 5 for the red zombie, and I keep the blue one as a 3. So now we can go to the event sheet and create a new event where, well, we check that if the bullet is hitting the zombies, then we will decrease the health by 1. And normally, like we would do that we will choose here the zombie and on collision with bullets, done, and then we would do again with the other zombie. This is how we normally would do without families, but now that we have the enemy's family created, we can just check if the enemy's family member is on collision with and bullets, and press done. Now we are checking if this red zombie or this blue zombie is on collision with bullets. And now we can make an action where we want to decrease the health. And again, we can choose the enemies and find here the subtract from, and it will give us the HP instance variable, and we want to subtract it by 1. Press done. And now the enemies should have their HP subtracted if they get hit with the bullets. But so that we can see that, let's make another event where we check if the enemy's health or HP is less or equal than 0, and then we can destroy the enemy like this. So now this is the basic logic for every enemy, but now we don't have to copy this for every single enemy instance. Rather than we can just call the family and that will handle everything. So if we go to the game right now, we can see that if I shoot 3 times of the blue zombie, 1, 2, 3, the blue zombie will die. And then if I shoot 5 times at the red zombie, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, then the red zombie will die. So this is the basic of the families, how we can use them. And it's basically a way to decrease the amount of code that we need to write here. And one thing that I noticed, that I really want to destroy the bullets when we hit the enemy, so that it doesn't go straight through them. Yeah, this looks better. Okay, now we have the enemies with different amounts of health, but next we want them to have like some sort of a brain, and it will be really simple. As they are zombies, they will just follow the player and try to hit the player. And the way we are going to accomplish it is through pathfinding behavior. And again, now that we have the family, we can add the behavior in the family rather than separately on the enemies. So here we try to find the pathfinding, and then we can close it. And well, let's make the moving speed to 150 as our player is moving at 200 at the current time. And now that if we check the 2 different zombie types, they both will have the pathfinding added to them from the enemy's family. And again, we can change the parameters separately right here. Like for example, we can make the strong zombie to be a bit slower. Let's make it 100, and let's keep the normal zombie as a 150. And yeah, now we have the behavior. So next, how we can use it in the event sheet. Well, basically the pathfinding works like that. First we need to find a path, and then we check if we found the path, then we move along that path. And the path we are going to find is the path from the zombie to the player, as we want the zombie to move to the player's position. But the thing is that normally with the pathfinding, you can just put it maybe on start of layout and then try find the path and then move to the position. But our player is moving all the time, so we need to make it so that the path gets updated all the time. So one way to do that is to make an event with condition with every x seconds, and well, let's make it 0.2 seconds. And here as action we go again to the enemies, and here is action called find path, and here the explanation is start looking for a path to a destination, later triggering on path found or on failed to find path. And that's the way we can move to the destination later. So we can choose the path, and what is the coordinates of the destination of the path? Well, it's the player's x coordinate and then the player's y coordinates. Now every 0.2 seconds our enemies will try to find the path again, and like the description said, we need to call or like check if our path is found. Here it is. And then when we find the path, what we want to do, well, again, let's get the enemies, and here is action called move along path, and again the description, start moving along a found path after the on path found trigger. And now if we play our game, now our zombies will follow, and you can see that the blue zombie is faster than the red one, so the parameters work properly here on the properties window. But one thing that is a bit weird is that when they turn, it's really wide turn for the zombies, so it's really easy just to go around them and make them just turn around on the where they stand. So we can change it by, well, if we want to change both of them at the same time, we can check the enemies and go to the properties window, and here is the rotate speed parameter, and we can put it like 1000, which is like for movement the maximum turn speed in degrees per second, so they can turn over 3 times per second or 3 rounds per second, so it should be faster. And here you can see that now they're turning much faster, but here you can see that every 1.2 seconds they will twitch a little bit, and that's because we will find a new path every 0.2 seconds. So one way to make that less twitchy is to make this like 0.02 seconds, but then again it's more expensive for the computer, or like for the performance, so it might make the game slower. But for a small project it shouldn't be a problem. But if you have like hundreds and hundreds of enemies and you have like really small interval, here, then it might have problems with the performance, especially with the weaker computers. So keep that in mind when you're building the game. But yeah, now we have working enemies, but we still have to make the damage calculations for the player, and that will be a small challenge for you to do on your own. And it should be quite simple if you have watched the previous series before. So basically just add HP stat for the player, and if the zombies collide with player, then just decrease the health. And when the health hits 0, then maybe destroy the player and restart the layout. So try to do that. Pause the video now, and I'll see you later. Okay, were you able to do that? Well, let's check how it's done. Well, first we want to add the HP stat for the player, and we can do it by adding a new instance variable. And let's call this again as HP, keep it number, and maybe 3 is good amount for now. In the future, we might change this to be a global variable, but for now, the instance variable is fine. And next, we want to add a new event where we check if the player is on collision with enemies. So here, don't choose either of these zombies, and because we want to choose the enemies, so we can check both of the zombies at the same time. And then again, what we want to do is decrease the health of the player. So we will find the subtract from HP value 1. Yeah, it's fine. And then if our player's HP, so compare instance variable. So if HP is less or equal than 0, then we destroy the player and restart the layout here. And now our game should work properly, like when the zombies hit. That was 1, that was the second one, and the third one we died and restarted the level. Maybe I could add a small wait time, 1 second over there, so it doesn't restart right away. Yeah, that looks better. And yeah, I think that's all for today, but one thing left I really want to do is to clean a little bit of our event sheet, as we can use something called groups, and we can add a new group. Let's call this player. So we can add all the code that has something to do with the player. So the set it to angle, then shooting, and that, oh, well, let's take these two first. Let's throw them here. No, here. And then these two damage calculations right over here. So now it's a bit more cleaner. We can find the player specific events right from here. And then we can add another group for enemies. Let's call that enemy, and add these 4 right here. So now we can keep it nice and clean all the time, and we don't have to look all the events at the same time. If we are working with enemies, we can just open this and do it here. But yeah, that's everything for this time. In the next episode, I think we are going to make a spawners for zombies, so we can spawn zombies when we want, and maybe we will to invincible frames for the player also, so that when you get hits, you won't lose the next HP right away. So I'll see you in the next episode.